In a distant galaxy, where stars twinkled like diamonds in the vast darkness, an alien race known for its cruelty and advanced technology had just completed a terrifying mission. On a peaceful planet called Neria, a young alien girl named Lyra lived a simple and happy life. Her days were filled with laughter, exploring beautiful landscapes and dreaming of a bright future. But all that changed in an instant. One fateful night, as Lyra was stargazing, a massive spaceship descended from the sky. Its dark hull loomed menacingly against the backdrop of the stars. Without warning, a beam of light enveloped Lyra, pulling her from the ground and lifting her into the spaceship. She struggled and cried out, but the beam was too strong. In a few moments, she was inside the cold metal interior of the alien vessel. The ship was like nothing Lyra had ever seen. The walls were lined with strange, glowing symbols, and the air was filled with a low hum. She was taken to a dark room where the alien scientists awaited her arrival. They had large, glowing eyes and long, bony fingers. Their expressions were cold and emotionless, showing no hint of compassion. Lyra was placed on a metal table, strapped down with strong, unyielding restraints. Her heart raced as she looked around, trying to understand what was happening. The scientists began their work, using strange tools and devices. They poked and prodded her, taking samples and running tests. Every touch, every needle, and every device brought a new wave of pain. Lyra's screams echoed through the cold, empty hallways of the ship, but there was no one to hear them. The experiments seemed endless. The scientists were relentless, pushing Lyra to her physical and emotional limits. They injected her with unknown substances, tested her strength, and subjected her to extreme temperatures. Despite the suffering, Lyra tried to remain strong. She thought of her family, her friends, and the beautiful world she had been taken from. She clung to the hope that someone would come to rescue her, that somehow things would get better. Days turned into weeks, and the pain did not lessen. Each day, the scientists devised new ways to torment her. They took pleasure in her suffering, seeing her as nothing more than a specimen. The once vibrant and hopeful girl began to feel like a shadow of herself, her spirit breaking under the constant strain. One day, while the scientists were busy with their work, Lyra noticed a small, flickering light in the corner of the room. It was faint, but it was there. She focused all her energy on it, hoping it was a sign of something, anything that could lead to her escape. She tried to reach out with her mind, her heart full of desperate hope. The light seemed to grow brighter, and for a moment, Lyra felt a glimmer of hope. Could it be a sign that someone was coming to help her? Could it be a signal from another world? She had no way of knowing, but she held on to the thought that she might not be alone in her suffering. As the scientists left the room for a break, Lyra took the opportunity to test the restraints that held her down. She wiggled and twisted, trying to find any weakness. The metal was cold and unyielding, but she continued to struggle, driven by the small flicker of hope she had found. Her attempts were met with failure, and the pain only seemed to increase. The light, once bright, began to fade, and Lyra's hope waned. She felt like she was sinking into a dark abyss, her strength fading with each passing moment. But even in the darkest moments, a small part of her refused to give up. As she lay there, exhausted and broken, she heard a new sound, an unfamiliar noise that was different from the hum of the ship or the footsteps of the scientists. It was a distant sound, but it was filled with urgency. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that someone was finally coming to save her? The sound grew louder, and Lyra's heart began to race again. She had no idea who or what it was, but she clung to the hope that it might be her chance for freedom. Little did she know that help was on the way, and her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. The part ends with Lyra's breath catching as she hears the distant sounds of a potential rescue, leaving her in suspense about what will happen next. Far away from the tortured cries of Lyra, in a different part of the galaxy, a sleek, silver spaceship glided silently through the stars. The human crew on board were explorers known for their compassion and bravery. The ship, called the Starfinder, was on a mission to discover new worlds and help those in need. The crew consisted of Captain Alex Hart, a kind-hearted leader, and Lieutenant Emma Reyes, a skilled pilot with a knack for finding trouble. Captain Hart was reviewing the latest data on a glowing screen in the ship's control room. The quiet hum of the ship was interrupted by a sudden beep. Emma, focused on her controls, looked up with a puzzled expression. "Captain, I'm picking up a strange signal," Emma said, her brow furrowing. "It's faint, but definitely coming from a nearby location." "It seems urgent." Captain Hart walked over and peered at the screen. The signal was a mix of distorted sounds and faint, distressing tones. He could sense something was wrong. "We should investigate," Captain Hart decided, his voice firm yet concerned. "Prepare for a closer scan. Let's see what's going on." As the Starfinder approached the source of the signal, the crew worked diligently to pinpoint its origin. The signal grew clearer, and they realized it was coming from a remote part of space, hidden within an asteroid field. The location was dangerous, but Captain Hart was determined to find out what was happening. After carefully navigating through the asteroid field, the Starfinder emerged near a dark, ominous spaceship. Its design was unfamiliar and intimidating. The crew's hearts raced as they realized it was an alien vessel. Captain Hart made a quick decision. "Emma, we need to board that ship and find out what's going on," he instructed. "But we have to be cautious. We don't know what we're dealing with." Emma nodded and prepared the boarding equipment. The team, including a brave engineer named Tom and a skilled medic named Sarah, suited up in their space gear. They were ready to face whatever awaited them. As they boarded the alien ship, the crew was struck by the stark contrast to their own vessel. The ship's corridors were dark and cold, illuminated by eerie blue lights. Strange symbols adorned the walls, and the air was filled with a low mechanical hum. The crew followed the signal, which led them to a heavy, reinforced door. With some effort, Tom managed to hack the door open, revealing a large, grim laboratory. Inside, they saw rows of strange equipment and, in the center of the room, a metal table with restraints. On that table lay Lyra, looking weak and in pain. Her once vibrant eyes were now dim, filled with fear and exhaustion. Captain Hart's heart sank at the sight. "We have to get her out of here," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "But we need to be quick. I don't know how much time we have before the aliens come back." Emma and Tom worked quickly to unfasten the restraints, while Sarah checked Lyra's condition. Lyra's eyes fluttered open as she felt the restraints being removed. She looked up and saw the humans for the first time. Confusion and hope flickered across her face. "Who are you?" Lyra managed to whisper, her voice weak. "We're here to help," Captain Hart said gently. "You're safe now. We're going to get you out of here." As the crew helped Lyra to her feet, they heard the sound of footsteps approaching. The aliens were returning. Captain Hart signaled for everyone to move quickly. They guided Lyra out of the laboratory and back through the dark corridors of the ship. The tension was palpable as they made their way back to the Starfinder. The crew knew they had little time before the aliens discovered their presence. They reached the boarding area just as the alien guards appeared, their harsh voices echoing through the corridors. With Lyra safe in their care, the crew hurried back to their ship. Emma quickly maneuvered the Starfinder away from the alien vessel, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. As they flew away from the alien ship, Lyra looked at her rescuers with gratitude. Her ordeal was far from over, but she had been given a chance at freedom. Captain Hart and his crew had taken a brave step into the unknown, and they were determined to protect their new ally. The part ends with the Starfinder escaping the alien ship, Lyra safe aboard, and the crew preparing for the next challenges ahead. The Starfinder raced through the vast expanse of space, leaving the alien ship far behind. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Lyra, though exhausted, was in awe of her rescuers. Captain Hart and his crew worked diligently to ensure their escape was successful. "Are you okay?" Captain Hart asked Lyra as he approached her. His eyes were filled with concern. Lyra nodded weakly. "Thank you. I thought I'd never get out of there." Her voice was soft, but gratitude shone in her eyes. The crew was busy with repairs and checks on the ship. Emma, the pilot, was navigating through the asteroid field, trying to get as much distance from the alien ship as possible. "We're not out of danger yet," Emma said, her voice tense. "We need to get out of this asteroid field and into a safer area." Tom, the engineer, worked on fixing the ship's damaged systems. He was focused but worried. "We have a few problems to fix before we can jump to hyperspace. I hope we have enough time." Sarah, the medic, tended to Lyra, giving her some basic care and checking her vitals. "You've been through a lot," she said gently. "We'll make sure you're okay." As the Starfinder maneuvered through the treacherous asteroid field, the crew tried to stay calm. But suddenly, a red alert flashed across the control panels. "Captain, we have a problem," Emma said urgently. "I'm picking up several alien ships closing in on us. They must have discovered our escape." Captain Hart's face tightened. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We need to make sure they don't catch us." The crew scrambled to their stations. The Starfinder swerved and twisted through the asteroid field, trying to shake off their pursuers. Alien ships, sleek and menacing, followed closely behind. The chase was on. The alien ships fired their weapons, sending blasts of energy towards the Starfinder. The crew could feel the ship shudder with each impact. "Emma, how's the ship holding up?" Captain Hart asked. "We're taking some hits, but we're holding together," Emma replied, her hands moving swiftly over the controls. "I need more time to make the jump." Tom worked frantically to complete the repairs. "I'm almost done with the repairs. Just a few more minutes." Sarah kept a close eye on Lyra, making sure she was safe. "Lyra, hold on. We're going to get through this." Despite the chaos, Lyra managed to stay calm. She could see the determination in her rescuer's eyes and felt a surge of hope. The alien ships continued their relentless pursuit, their weapons firing and their engines roaring. The Starfinder was moving faster now, dodging asteroids and returning fire when necessary. "We're almost there," Emma said, her voice filled with determination. "Just a little longer, and we can make the jump to hyperspace." As the Starfinder neared the edge of the asteroid field, the alien ships seemed to close in even more. The tension was unbearable as the crew fought to keep the ship intact and outmaneuver their enemies. With a final powerful blast, Tom finished the repairs. "We're ready to jump," he shouted. "Emma, engage the hyperspace drive," Captain Hart commanded. Emma's fingers flew over the controls, and the Starfinder roared as it engaged its hyperspace drive. The stars outside the ship blurred into streaks of light as they jumped to faster-than-light speed. The alien ships were left behind, unable to follow them into hyperspace. Inside the Starfinder, the crew took a deep breath of relief. The immediate danger had passed, but they knew they were not entirely safe yet. The alien ships would surely be searching for them, and the crew needed to regroup and plan their next move. Lyra looked around at her rescuers with deep gratitude. "Thank you. I don't know how I can ever repay you." Captain Hart smiled gently. "You don't need to repay us. We're just glad we could help. Right now, our priority is to get you to safety and figure out what comes next." The crew set their course for a nearby space station where they could make repairs and regroup. As they traveled, Lyra began to share her story, explaining what had happened to her and how she had been captured. The crew listened with sympathy and concern, determined to help their new ally and ensure she was safe. The part ends with the Starfinder speeding through hyperspace, leaving behind the danger of the alien pursuit, and heading towards a new, uncertain future. The Starfinder glided smoothly through the vastness of space, its crew feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion after escaping the alien ships. Captain Hart, Emma, Tom, and Sarah had hoped to find a safe place where they could make repairs and regroup. However, their plans took a sudden turn for the worse when a warning light flashed on the ship's control panel. "Captain, we're encountering a problem," Emma said, her voice tense. "There's a malfunction in the hyperspace drive. We're going to crash land on a nearby planet." Before anyone could react, the ship shook violently. The crew struggled to keep their balance as the Starfinder was pulled out of hyperspace and into the planet's atmosphere. The ship's controls were becoming increasingly unresponsive, and the planet's surface rushed up to meet them. "Brace for impact!" Captain Hart shouted. The ship crashed onto the planet's surface with a deafening thud. The crew was thrown around as the ship skidded to a halt. After a few moments of chaos, silence fell. The Starfinder had come to rest on a rocky, barren landscape. "Is everyone all right?" Captain Hart asked, checking on the crew. The team groaned and confirmed they were mostly unharmed, though shaken. They quickly assessed the damage. The ship was badly damaged, and the atmosphere outside was harsh and unwelcoming. The sky was a murky gray, and a fierce wind whipped across the rocky terrain. "We need to make repairs," Tom said, inspecting the ship's systems. "But first we need to assess the area and find shelter. The environment here is not friendly," Captain Hart agreed. "Emma, Sarah, take inventory of our supplies. Tom, let's see what we can do about fixing the ship. Lyra, you should stay inside the ship where it's safer." Lyra nodded, though she looked worried. "I'll help however I can." As the crew worked on their tasks, the hostile planet proved to be even more dangerous than they had anticipated. The wind howled and carried with it sharp, biting sand that cut through their clothing and equipment. The ground was uneven and treacherous, with sudden drops and jagged rocks. Emma and Sarah set up a temporary camp nearby and gathered whatever supplies they could. They found some basic food and water rations, but knew they would need more to survive. The planet's harsh environment made every task challenging. Meanwhile, Tom worked tirelessly on the ship's damaged systems. "I'm trying to repair the communications array," he said. "If we can get it working, we might be able to send a distress signal for help." Captain Hart helped with the repairs, his mind racing with possible solutions. "We need to figure out how to get off this planet. If we don't get the ship repaired soon, we'll be stuck here indefinitely." Lyra wandered outside to gather some information about their surroundings. Despite the harsh conditions, she noticed signs of life, small, resilient plants and strange, insect-like creatures scurrying across the rocks. She gathered some samples, hoping they might provide clues about the planet's ecosystem. As night fell, the temperature dropped rapidly. The crew huddled together around a small, portable heater they had managed to set up. They shared a simple meal and discussed their situation. "We need to stay focused and keep morale high," Captain Hart said. "We've faced tough situations before, and we'll get through this one too." Lyra, though still recovering from her ordeal, expressed her gratitude to the crew. "You've already done so much for me. I just wish I could do more to help." "Your safety is our priority," Captain Hart reassured her. "Right now, we need to focus on getting the ship repaired and finding a way off this planet." As the crew continued their work, the hostile planet seemed to become even more unforgiving. Strange noises echoed through the night, and the wind grew stronger. The crew knew they had to remain vigilant and work quickly. The part ends with the crew working under the harsh conditions of the planet, their spirits tested but not broken. The situation is dire, but they remain determined to repair their ship and find a way to safety, with Lyra's safety and their own survival at stake. The harsh planet had tested the crew of the Starfinder to their limits. After days of relentless work and facing the unforgiving elements, Captain Hart, Emma, Tom, and Sarah were finally ready to attempt a final repair on their damaged ship. They knew that the alien forces would not be far behind, and they had to act quickly. "All right, everyone," Captain Hart said, rallying his team. "The repairs are almost done. Once we're ready, we need to be prepared for anything. The aliens will come after us, and we need to be ready to defend ourselves." Tom had managed to get the communications array back online, and the ship was almost fully functional. "The ship should be operational now," he reported. "We can make a jump to hyperspace as soon as we're ready. But we have to be quick. I don't think we have much time." As the crew prepared for their escape, Lyra had been helping as much as she could. Despite her ordeal, she had shown great courage and determination. She had even managed to gather some valuable information about the planet's terrain and the aliens' tactics, which proved useful. The wind howled outside, and the sky was a dark, menacing gray. The crew knew that the alien ships would be closing in on their position. Emma was at the controls, scanning for incoming threats. "I'm picking up several alien ships on approach. They're getting closer." "Everyone, get ready!" Captain Hart ordered. "We need to be prepared for a fight. Emma, once we're airborne, try to avoid direct confrontations if possible. We don't want to risk getting hit while we're still on the planet." As the Starfinder powered up, the crew took their positions. The ship's engines roared to life, and the ship began to lift off the ground. The crew's hearts pounded with anticipation as they watched the alien ships approach. The first alien ships fired their weapons, sending energy blasts toward the Starfinder. The crew worked quickly, using the ship's defenses to deflect the attacks. Emma piloted the ship with precision, dodging and weaving through the oncoming fire. "Hold on tight!" Emma shouted as she maneuvered the ship through a tight passage between two large rock formations. The ship shuddered under the strain, but Emma's skill kept them on course. Tom monitored the ship's systems, making sure everything was functioning properly. "We're taking heavy fire, but the shields are holding," he reported. "Just a little longer and we'll be able to jump to hyperspace." Sarah, stationed at the ship's weapons control, fired back at the alien ships. Her shots were precise, hitting the aliens' ships and forcing them to retreat. "I'm giving them everything we've got," she said, "but they're relentless." Lyra, watching from the back of the ship, felt a surge of determination. She had suffered greatly, but was now fighting alongside her rescuers. "We can't let them stop us," she said, her voice steady. "We have to make it." The battle raged on as the Starfinder fought its way through the alien forces. The crew's teamwork and bravery were put to the test. They managed to disable several of the alien ships, but more kept coming. Finally, with a powerful burst of energy, the ship's hyperspace drive engaged. The Starfinder leaped into faster-than-light travel, leaving the hostile planet and the alien ships behind. The crew took a collective breath of relief as they entered the safety of hyperspace. "We did it!" Captain Hart said, his voice filled with exhaustion but relief. "We made it out." The crew gathered together, their faces showing signs of relief and triumph. They had faced incredible danger and adversity but had managed to overcome it through their courage and determination. Lyra looked at her rescuers with deep gratitude. "Thank you for everything. You saved my life and gave me a chance to start over." Captain Hart smiled warmly. "You don't need to thank us. We're just glad we could help. You're safe now, and that's what matters." The Starfinder continued its journey through hyperspace, heading toward a safer location where they could regroup and plan their next steps. The crew had faced a final stand against overwhelming odds and had emerged victorious. The part ends with the Starfinder safely in hyperspace, leaving the hostile planet and alien forces behind. The crew is tired but victorious, having saved Lyra and secured their own escape.